Fala galera, meu nome é Bruno, esse aqui é o Porquemetal. E o vídeo de hoje, como você já deve ter visto, é uma entrevista que eu fiz com o Anders Jacobsson, o vocalista do Draconian. O Draconian tá vindo aqui para São Paulo para a segunda apresentação deles no Brasil. Eles vão tocar no dia 16 de maio lá no Carioca Clube. Os ingressos estão quase esgotando, então se você tem interesse em ir, já garante o seu. O link para compra tá aí embaixo. E o Draconian também tá lançando o seu 8º disco de inéditas nessa sexta-feira, 8 de maio, o In a Somnolent's Ruin. Esse disco eu tive a oportunidade de escutar um pouquinho antes da entrevista começar, então mais ou menos umas 2 horas atrás. E o que eu posso dizer é que numa ouvida só, já deu pra ver que é um disco de alto nível, mantendo a regularidade, a constância que a banda tem, e trazendo um som que é assombrado, arrepiante, grandioso, e também com letras extremamente bem escritas e filosóficas. Eu já tinha curtido muito o single Misanthrope River, que para mim é uma das melhores músicas do ano, e já nessa primeira escutada eu posso destacar algumas outras, como é o caso aí de The Monochrome Blade, que é incrível. Gostei muito também da Asteria Beneath the Tranquil Sea, que é uma música mais curta, até um pouco mais moderna, e também Let, que termina o disco, é maravilhosa. Bom, já vou soltar a entrevista com o Anders aqui, só peço para você deixar o like no vídeo, se inscrever no canal se ainda não for inscrito, comentar o que você achou da entrevista e também do disco, se você já ouviu. Comenta também se você vai no show. E considere se tornar membro do canal. A partir da segunda categoria, você vai concorrer a um CD mensal e também participar do nosso grupo de WhatsApp. É isso aí, então. Com vocês, Anders Jacobsson.
Coding in progress.
So, thank you again for being here. And
Thank you.
week, Draconian returns to São Paulo for the second time. And like in the 2023 concert, this one is already almost sold out. This time, actually in a bigger venue, way bigger. So how does it feel to cross continents and play to such packed crowds?
Well, I didn't know that I would almost sold out, so that was nice to hear. And it's cool to come back to like a different venue. It just makes the experience a little different. And considering how well we were received by the fans last time, I feel very humbled that we are able to come back and actually do a small tour for this new album. And most bands that come from Europe, they do European tours, but for different reasons, it happened this time that we are doing the Latin America tour for this new album that is released on Friday. So I'm very much looking forward to that. It's a different concept, and I'm looking forward to playing these new songs for you. And it will be like full circle for us as well. We have never played them live before, so it's going to be exciting and terrifying and wonderful all at the same time.
That's awesome. I love to speak to you about the new album in a minute, but before, still on São Paulo and Brazil, what comes to mind when you think back to your last visit here, aside from the concerts? Did you have a good time?
Oh yeah, sure, we did. I was actually there like a week prior, or like 5 days prior to the concert with my girlfriend, who also came with. She stayed through our whole stay in São Paulo. So when we left, she left for home back to Vienna. So yeah, we were just hanging out. I was staying in the hotel a lot after the shows because it was extremely tiring. We were going out, and our manager Caio was showing around a bit. Going to that big mall with all these metal shops. I don't remember what it's called, but I guess you know
The Rock
which
Gallery.
one I mean. Yeah, exactly. I was there a couple of times and bought some stuff, and we were just, me and my girlfriend, we were just taking taxis and checking the city out, but it still felt like it wasn't enough time. We did spend a lot of time. We were hanging out with some fans. We were staying at the hotel and meeting up with people there. And there was just and then the shows came, and 2 shows, and then we basically just had to leave. It was not that much time, not much left to do after the shows were done. So we went out and had some drinks and some burgers, and then it was a few hours of sleep, and then we had to leave for the airport. So, But it was a good vibe, good time, and I was amazed by the people we met. And I will never forget when we first arrived for the venue, the reception we got from the people there. It was almost unreal because, you know, for 20 years we have seen the comment "come to Brazil," you know, in our socials. So it was finally happening, and it felt very. It was just beautiful to finally come there and connect with the fans.
So, I've just heard a couple of hours ago Insomnolent Ruin, and it's a great album. And I have to say that Misanthrope River is one of my favorite songs of the year so far, since it was released as a single. But upon just one listen, the Monochrome Blade is also among my favorites. But congrats on the whole album.
Thank you.
And would you please share some insights of what does this album represent for you as a whole?
There's been so much happening since the last album. We have had changes in within the band, and that happened during the time when the Earth basically stood still due to the pandemic. So when it was time to finally do the tours for the Under God's Veil album, that we never had the chance to do because of how the world kind of held its breath for a few years, we realized that we were some people in the band had different ideas about what they wanted to do. Heike had different ideas than the rest of us. She wanted to tour less. She wanted to play less live. She wanted to focus on her own projects a little bit more. She wanted to move and to be with her family and all of that. And it gradually became like Lisa came gradually back into the band. First as a live vocalist, and then it just felt more like, you know, we all felt, including Heike, that this is probably for the best, that the band becomes full and we don't have to deal with too much craziness around to make it work live-wise and tour-wise. So, and Lisa was very happy to come back. We didn't even know that she had been thinking about, you know, she had been thinking about Draconian for a couple of years before we even asked her. And I had only talked to her like a couple of times in the last 10 years. So when we finally contacted her, she was super happy to even just be part of the band for a little bit, you know, as a session member. So that was during this whole, when all that happened, we started writing for a new album back in 2022. So it was a very slow process, and for me, the album represents like almost like the culmination of everything that happened since the recording of the previous album. Instead of me telling a story about the story, which basically Under God's Veil was, this is more a story in the same philosophy, I would say, as a Gnostic-minded person, which, you know, previous album was a lot about Gnosticism, or it was nodding to it a lot. But now it's more about my philosophical disposition throughout with my own experiences as a human being, as a person since then. Also inspired by the world, and also the song process itself. Even though we started so long ago, it was not until last year we decided which songs would be on this album, because Johan had already been writing like 18-20 songs. Some of them was far from finished, but we needed to decide which songs to make an album, if you know what I mean. So we could build a concept and not just have songs thrown in there for the sake of having songs. So that was also a process to construct an album through a bunch of tracks that Johan had been working on since almost 2021. You know, Misanthrope River was actually written for the previous album. So that's a very old song. In its infancy, it was a very old song, but didn't fit on the previous album. So that was the first song that we realized that okay, this is going to be on the upcoming album. That we knew very early on. But so last year when we were recording demos, me and Johan in his living room, I started realizing what to work on or what to use from everything that I've been writing in the last years, and what to make of this album. When I started to see how the album came together, we didn't know how it would be. You have an idea about an album when you're starting, and then it turns out very differently when it's actually taking form. And even after when the mix is made, it's more different than what you think it would be. So the album takes on a life on its own, but it represents a lot, I would say, as a culmination of everything since then, and it's more personal to me, and because it deals with a lot of thoughts and dreams and stuff that I've been going through. But yeah, and it's more poetic and more introspective, and I have, as I've always done, I'm talking about alienation in this world and the yearning for the afterlife and what that might mean, and what your own identity in this world. But it doesn't have a cohesive structure in that sense. I'm talking about different aspects of my life since then. What I've been like, the first song on the album is about a dream that kept coming back to me like 5 times or something. And so I made a poem based on it. And Johan just said, shit, this is good. Let's make this into the first song of the album. And that's how it happened. So it's very subjective compared to the previous album. But that said, I think it also opens up a way for the listener to immerse themselves in the album in their own personal way. I'm not writing in a too straightforward way, apart from maybe the last song. They can interpret it in their own way, and this is something that I know Draconian fans has always told me, that they feel a lot of their own life story and their own thoughts and feelings in our songs. That just proves that we are not so dissimilar after all, whatever we might believe in. There is a inherent sadness and an inherent ecstasy that we all share, being here trapped in this world.
That's a great answer. And a follow-up, when you perform these songs live that you worked so hard and represents a lot of you, not only from the new album but previous ones, do the lyrics, singing the lyrics, affect you emotionally, or do they take you back to the mindsets you had when writing them?
I don't know. For me, it has been a very bit of a mechanical process to put this album together, because this has been going on for such a long time, and I've been just thinking about it to get it together and finally do it. It has been very difficult to make this album. It's the most difficult album that I ever had to be part of, because not just because there's so much years in between, but also the psychological stress of all the changes and everything that has happened surrounding the album. So the album represents a lot of that also for me. But I haven't performed these songs live yet, and that's when it's gonna come to me. I think what you're talking about. Up until this point, I only focused to get the songs right in the mix. To perform them is a different thing. That's when I will truly feel it, I haven't been able, I haven't wanted to listen to this album since it was finished. I barely wanted to listen to it at all, because I wanted to create some distance between me and the songs and what became In Somnolent Ruin. it's now when the album is coming out and we got our, physical copies in our hands. Now I feel like I can finally go back there again. But I will probably feel very emotional with certain songs for sure, because it's going to make me think about certain things in my life. But it's going to be very healing at the same time. Yeah. It has always been healing as well. When I sing a song from, let's say, sing a song from 2008 or something, it's almost like a time travel experience, because it's still part of who I am. I am different now, but I'm just an updated version of myself, but I still know what it was to feel that way. And I'm not that different. I still, when I tell these stories, represent something. And I think even if I say that, okay, that it's about me, I think that's where we can share things, because people tell me all the time that it's almost like you wrote this for me, or almost like this song was made for me. That means that there are certain things, like I said earlier, that there are certain things we share, that we are not so we do share certain things. We just sometimes experience them with using different language and different tools. I am very lucky that I'm able to have this kind of expression. But of course, it means a lot to me. I've been emotional on stage many times, and but that's also when it's the most rewarding as well.
And we are only 2 days away from its release. How do you usually feel just before an album release to the public?
Yeah, it's almost like a little bit unreal. I'm working quite closely with management. It's like part of my job, so to say. I'm working. So I've been focused very much on interviews now for the last couple of months. I've done dozens and dozens and dozens of Zoom interviews, and I also do things for the fan club and for everything around it. I'm helping out with the management. So I'm the person in the band that are doing that. So sometimes I'm just so focused on these things that leads up to the release, and so it's almost like, okay, if I sit back at night and think about, oh, tomorrow the album is out, it almost feels a little bit unreal. It's almost like, okay, you know, because I'm talking about it all the time. I'm working on it in one way or another, and when I'm not doing anything, I'm thinking about it. But it's not like I feel, oh, I'm looking forward to the release so much. I don't have that relationship. I think that's mostly for the fans, but I'm very happy that it's finally coming out, and I truly hope and wish that I will find something substantial in this album.
So, for my final question, we have a playlist here in the channel in which we feed from recommendations from our guests. So, I have to ask you for 3 songs. One song from Draconian that you want to be added to the playlist. A song that is like a comfort song, a song that's close to your heart ever since you were a child and you still hear to this day. And to finish, a song that you discovered recently that impacted you. Not necessarily a new song, not necessarily a metal song too, but something that you've been digging in the last months.
Let's start with Draconian. We'll take one from the album. I would say The Face of God from the album. A song since I was a child that has been very, very impactful for me. Then I have to go back since I was a young teenager, like, I don't know, a child. I mean, I was not always listening to metal,
It doesn't have to be a
but
child, but a song that's in your heart.
yeah, deep in my heart. Okay. The Luciferian Revolution with Eland. Uh, that's from 1996. It's a neoclassical dark age band. All live instruments. Imagine Beethoven, Mozart, Berlioz in a kind of an Luciferian black metal aesthetic. That song has probably made me cry more than any other song. And I would say, what was the last one?
A song that's impacted you recently.
Recently. I wouldn't. There is a few, but I cannot really say at the moment. I can say an album. There is this EP with this band called Kairis, Cairis, Kairis. I don't remember. I only listened to the EP from back. I don't know the names, but this is something that has impacted me very much lately. It's like a black gaze band with by two females from the UK. Extremely good, and of course I would say almost every song on Evig Natt's new album. It's a gothic doom band from Norway who are friends to us. Amazing song, amazing album. But I wouldn't take one song, but I wouldn't know at the moment because I don't have it in front of me.
That's fine. That's great. Thank you so much, Anders. And before you go, I'd like to give you the floor to speak to the Brazilian audience watching this interview and probably coming to the show too.
All right. Well, we are so much looking forward to coming back to São Paulo and Brazil. And we have been counting the days basically since we left the last time. And so we're extremely happy to meet up with you again. And we hope we can deliver at least as much an impact as we did last time. So we are so happy that we will be seeing you next week. So I'll see you there, and thank you so much for coming and supporting us.